Hey everybody, how are you? Today we are with my friend Sam Hanafi. Sam is the owner of IT Logic, a great computer internet protection company for everybody. I want to introduce you to Sam. Hi Sam.
Hey, how you doing, Michael? How are you?
Good. So Sam and I met. We were doing some networking, and we met, became friendly through networking, and we've grown our relationship a little bit. And I kind of want to get to know you on camera a little bit. And we'll bring us up to current time. So, Sam, I already know the answer to this, but let's tell everybody else. How'd you get here? Like, you weren't born in the United States, were you?
No, I actually was not born in the United States. I was born in Egypt. And I came here, I was about 16 years old. It was around 1978.
That's amazing. Have you been a permanent resident since you came, or have you gone back and then came back?
No, I actually stayed since I came, and obviously now I'm a citizen.
Yeah, sure.
I got my citizenship, but I didn't actually. It was a very interesting age. I was about 16,
Tough age,
so it was really tough to
sure.
to basically drop all your friends, come here, and start a whole new life. And I'll give you a snippet of a very interesting story. So being from Egypt, and understand we're playing football, which everybody called it soccer.
Right.
So I got enrolled in high school, and they said, "Oh, you're going to go ahead and play football." And to me, oh, absolutely. How great that is.
In the U.S.
In U.S.
Yeah.
So I walked in the gym, and that's where we're supposed to, we're going to get warm up and play. And it's like, what is going on? Where is the soccer ball?
I don't recognize anything here.
What is he doing? This is absolutely got nothing to do with soccer, with football. So that was my one of my introduction, one of many.
And who made the decision to come here in your family? How your mom moved here first?
Right. So it actually all because of my cousins. So my aunt had twins, and she had some issue with her feet, and she also had like a 2 years old, and her husband had used almost all his days off and vacation and so on. So my mom decided to come and help
and
support her, and just make sure that everybody's well, and help give her a hand and so on. Even though if that would not have happened, I most likely would have been in some other Arab country. My mom had a contract to go teach in Saudi Arabia. So that was.
So did your mom, after coming here to support, did she come back home?
No, she actually came here.
Sent the ticket?
Yeah. She actually. No, I believe. No, you know what? I think she came back home for a little bit just to finish business in Egypt, and then. She convinced my dad and the rest of the family, and we're pretty much all here now.
I can imagine that conversation convincing your dad. I'm going whether you come or not, so you make a decision.
It probably was something like that. It was something.
So
like
you were 16 when you got here. Yeah. Was it a big adjustment? How long did it take to feel settled in and feel like you did it right? You were happy with being moved here?
I would say probably the hardest part was the first couple of years, because it took me, first of all, everything is a culture shock. Everything that I wasn't supposed to do, you could do here, and everything I did there, you're not supposed to do here. So it was just, everything was backwards.
Was language also?
Language was a bit barrier. I did actually was introduced to English in Egypt from junior high.
Okay.
And I already also was introduced to French, but we were introduced to British English.
Sure.
And if you don't really practice a language, you're not as good.
And the Brits don't really have the English language down. Let's be honest about it.
Well, I mean, you could always mimic it. Just put an egg in your mouth and so.
So when you came here at 16 and you got enrolled in school, you were able to participate right away because of your English knowledge, or you had to be in a separate class?
No. I've been introduced to ESL classes, which is English as a second language. That was to bring me up to speed.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much helped.
So was the first year or two a little challenging academically to be able to read and write and really kind of
very much to get me, yes.
Okay.
Read was okay a bit. Writing was a little bit difficult. And then try to understand very much everything around me. and even sense of humor is different, for each
Okay.
country. So that was very interesting, and making friends, obviously.
All right, so now you're here, you're living here, you go to school, you graduate. What happens after high school?
So after high school, we had we basically. I started going to college, but yet because we're migrant and money also wasn't, a lot of it. So I did have to actually support myself and work and go to college. And part of what I did also, I drove a yellow cab in New York City.
Was that like one of the
In
first
the
jobs
80s,
you had, or
that was actually probably the fourth or fifth job.
Okay.
I did work in restaurants.
restaurants?
And I did actually worked in retailer, and then I finally actually did get to work to drive a cab, and that was very interesting. Did income tax as well, so a lot of stuff
interesting.
in between.
So the cabbie experience, was it a good? You liked it, right?
I really did like the driving a yellow cab. It was very interesting because you get to learn quite a lot. You hear people in the back seat talking, so you hear stories, and you really want to give your opinion, but you can't.
Sure.
You're supposed to haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
The other thing is sometimes people need help, and you got to help them. And some people are very appreciative. Some people aren't.
Yeah, you're a real people person. I can imagine you driving a cab with somebody alone in the back seat and conversation starting, and I could see where you'd enjoy that. I mean, certainly a distraction from being in the traffic itself, right? Talking to people.
That is true. And you meet, actually, I met quite a few celebrity, back then, like Keith Hernandez.
Well, that's a big one.
So that was a big one. And I also met Sue Simmons from Channel 4.
Were you driving in Manhattan? Or
In
Queens?
Manhattan, most of the time in Manhattan, and then, go outside Manhattan.
Yeah.
Wherever.
How long do you think you were a kid driving a cab for?
I would say I drove it for a bit because I also kept it as a part-time.
Yeah, was it good
job.
money?
It was a good money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you knew what to do and where to go and so
Yeah.
on. So it used to help,
That's cool.
definitely. So
All right. So, going from a cabbie, how do you end up in a professional career?
Korea. So I actually, in college, I took accounting. I did not like working as an accountant. So I actually try to figure out what to do. I introduced myself to computers.
I can imagine you as an accountant without really having a lot of people interaction,
It was
finding
not-
that boring.
It was really not the best.
Okay.
I didn't
All right.
care for it. So I figured out what I wanted to do, and so in the 80s, when I went to school at the beginning, computer was just about to come in. So
I
I
remember.
took first class in computer, which was basically
Programming
like
and stuff then, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like basically what we call dumb terminal, or just a stationary terminal,
Sure.
nothing on it. And
Yeah.
and I looked at it and was like, no, I will not work in that field. That's it. So after a few years, I think I went back and I started taking how to put computer together and how to assemble it, how to work it.
Physically building the
Physically
machines?
building a machine
Okay.
and networking and so on.
Okay.
So I enjoyed it. I like it. And from that point on, I started getting jobs. So I started when computer was introduced to actually the car inspection. So your car inspection in the 90s used to go on the dyno and
Yeah.
all of that, and probably still do.
That's when they were getting the emissions, really, right?
That is
Yeah.
absolutely correct. So all that was actually running was a computer and quite a few boards in the back of the machine. So that was my first start, actually a real job in computer. Then after that, I got a job consulting for multiple firms. Then I worked on the Y2K, if you recall that.
I keep telling my kids about this.
Yeah, and it's like,
They laugh at Y2K, but I remember when we lived it,
right.
everybody thought the world was coming to an end. It was really
absolutely.
a crisis.
Absolutely.
That never
midnight,
happened.
midnight midnight of the flipping from 2000 to 2001.
Yeah.
Everybody was working, standby. and-
Where everybody was not sure what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I remember we didn't really know about that until really kind of close to the deadline. It wasn't like 10 years out we were talking about it, right? It was just a couple of years.
I,
We were like, hey,
yes, and I believe every once in a while, we still encounter that issue, and I think their biggest worry is when it turned from zeros to one, and how is it going to handle it, and all of that. So that was kind of all of, with that, they start coming up with a lot of, should I say, patches, fixing, and things of that nature, and see if your computer was eligible or would be able to survive, or you should get a new computers. So I worked as a consultant, and I lived, I think, half a year off my suitcase. So I come home, it's like maybe Friday night, and leave either Sunday night or Monday morning.
Oh, you're traveling around the country?
Travel around the country,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
and
tough.
working, to fix that. So it was also very interesting. We did what we have to do, and it was a bunch of us, so it wasn't just me.
I just remember waking up the next day looking to see if the world crashed or not, and it didn't. Everybody was like, okay, that was a waste of time.
Nothing had happened. I also, but one of the contract, I guess, or one of the parts was the company that I worked for had to actually put a sticker on every single computer, for other companies that were fixing. And that meant that I drove to areas where it was only one lane of traffic. And for hours, there's nobody around you.
Oh.
And the office or the location was a trailer.
That's
As
strange.
one computer.
That's strange.
Yeah, but it needed to actually be certified.
So, did you eventually evolve out of that position for traveling into a more stable situation?
Right. So I actually, after that, moved on to, and I became, I went for a job, multiple job, worked for different places, and I wound up in one job, and that was actually setting up environment and doing testing and mimicking production environment and prepare my environment for the testing team to test before they deploy to production, making sure nothing is broken.
Okay.
So I last from that job for quite a while, and I started as probably an engineer, and left the job as a director of the department.
Was this job? I'm sorry. Was this job more about building machines and bases, or were you in programming at this point?
It's actually both.
It is,
So my intro basically is I have to have the infrastructure in place and work with basically the software and the developers and ensure the code quality and ensure the code version as well.
At this point, everything's pretty much new, right? So it's a little exciting. Everything was a new level, a new plateau being hit
Yeah.
with technology.
That is correct. Without naming names, so I was involved with introducing the intranet as known on Long Island way at the beginning. So company that I work for, we actually were bringing up the internet and the modems and so on.
So the first Long Island internet, the database,
That
the
one-
network itself.
Correct.
The
That
machine
came-
had to be installed here for people to first.
It came out of cable company.
Yeah.
So, and a cable company actually, it start introducing modems.
Yes.
And the modem will actually start giving you the internet and the speed. So we were in transition from, instead of you dialing out
Yeah.
to get on the internet,
Yeah.
you start using the cable and you start getting data or
I
internet.
can still
through
hear the
that.
sound of the
Yeah,
dial-up.
like you remember that?
And I can still remember sitting in front waiting how long would it take for a picture to download or anything to happen. A photograph, one photograph.
Right?
Not a movie, a photograph. It would be like slowly opening up and it was so exciting.
Compare that to now. So
Now if it
the
doesn't
speed of
flash
light.
open, you're like, what's wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
exactly it. That's exactly it. So I worked on that. My other also interesting thing was, we built for the same company. We were involved. We built the VoIP, or the beginning of VoIP, which is voice over IP,
Okay.
and we test that, and that was the officially basically using your internet to dial a phone instead of using a phone to get on the internet. So it was a reverse of that.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so that was it, and then basically on TV or streaming, and how the smart TV became, and how you could actually get their IB and start going around.
Do you remember some of those first digital cameras, the inexpensive ones that were plastic, and you almost didn't even think it would work because it weighed nothing. It was really a USB jack of some sort, and you know, and you'd be so fascinated to be able to take a picture digitally.
Exactly. That is exactly.
It was also new.
It's all the technology actually. It's once you start having, should I say, the infrastructure in place, you were able to start introducing things and enhance and introduce new technology.
I have these conversations with my children who are adults, and one of them actually recalls using a dial-up phone.
Right.
Remembers before cell phones. Remembers before all that. You know, then their first real exposure as teenagers becomes instant messenger, IMing everybody,
Right.
AIM, right? All that stuff.
That is true. So I'll tell you a quick thing, make you laugh. So my son is he's a programmer already, and he graduated a couple of years ago. When we talk and I say floppy as a disk, you know, a floppy disk, he looks at me like I have two heads. What are you talking about?
Which size floppy? Remember the big ones?
Yeah,
5 inch.
Yeah, I was even telling him about the 3.5,
I
not
know.
even the 5 and
But
quarter.
the first ones were like
they were
soft and bendable, and then they got to be the rigid disc
yes.
before we went to the CD-ROMs.
CD-ROMs, and then
God.
the CD-ROMs gone, and
I ordered something online not too long ago, and one of the options was to get it in a disc, a CD-ROM. And I was telling my son, he's like, "Well, what machine would you put that in? Because the machines don't even come with the drives anymore."
That is
And I'm
true.
thinking, I have a machine three machines back that
That is,
still works. Yeah, it's kind of silly how they still put that out.
Right, and that is true. That is true. And if you want to hear jokes about the CD-ROM as well, so one of the kind of joke is supporting customer, and one of the things that was going around is basically the lady calls the support center and says, "Hey, I have a problem and I need this, that, whatever." And he goes and says, "Okay, well, there is a CD that came, and if you could put it in the CD-ROM, and we'll basically kind of do the installation." She kept saying, "I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're talking about." And then by the time she realized, she says, "Oh, you're talking about the cup holder." That was funny.
I was watching a good movie last night. It's an older one. It's Office Space. Everybody loves Office Space. And, they develop a program to rob every half cent or something. And but the whole program, he's got the hard 3-inch floppy disk. And he's sliding it in. He's waiting and waiting and waiting. And it just brought back memories that,
That is.
now if I'm waiting 2 minutes, I'm rebooting my Wi-Fi or something,
That is absolutely.
So how did you, where was the transition from working in that field to actually getting to owning your own business? When did that come about?
So around, I would say, right around the pandemic starting, so around the 2020 probably, or somewhere in there.
Which happened first? You chose to go into business, or the pandemic came?
They were almost about the same, because pandemic came first.
Yeah.
Because the company that I work for, they start, as most IT work now is they outsource.
Sure.
So they outsourced my department.
Oh, okay.
And very much eliminated my job.
I got it.
So with that in mind, I actually started, okay, what am I going to do? I'm starting to, get my resume together, and then the pandemic hit. And after that actually is, being that the job was eliminated and the pandemic is out there, is like, okay, what am I going to do at the moment? So I decided, okay, let me just check and see what I will do. So I start exploring, around and figuring out, okay, if I'm gonna open my own business, what should it be? And I explored quite a few, and then I landed on the franchise or the company that I own. It's called Team Logic IT, and basically I like it because it's very much extended of what I do.
Let's use this as a chance to take a break. I want to remind everybody the full interview here with Sam Hanafi will be posted on my YouTube channel. You'll see a couple of sound bites hitting us on Instagram. We'll be right back. Okay, I want to welcome you all back. I'm here with my good friend Sam Hanafi. We're talking today about how he came here in the United States and how he got his career going in the IT world and computers. And, we just left off with Sam actually being downsized right at the beginning of the pandemic, outsourced his job, and faced with an opportunity. Sam jumped on that. He purchased a licensing agreement, a franchise, and he now owns his own company, which is called Team Logic IT.
of West Babylon.
Okay.
To be the
So-
full name.
There are how many of these groups that represent the Long Island area?
So out of this, we have a total of about 3 on Long Island.
Okay.
And my territory is South Shore. Then there is another Valley Stream. Team Logic is also taking care of Valley Stream and parts of Queens and so on. And there is the North Shore, which is almost one of the first Team Logic IT to open.
Okay.
So between 3 of us, we cover.
And the company itself, the parent company, how many around the country? How long has it been in business?
So the company has been in business, I think, in the early 20s. So it's been around for quite a while.
Okay.
So we're about a network of 250 locations nationwide, and about 1,000 plus technicians.
That's cool. So does a big organization like that allow you access to support? And when you come across something that's a little challenging, education maybe, perhaps even equipment?
Exactly. So the benefits of actually being a part of such organization, so I could easily serve multiple location for my clients. So if the client is headquartered in New York and have a few offices around the nation, no problem. I'll deal with everything. He will deal with me.
Okay.
The company, also by having over 1,000 technicians, we have a collaboration platform that they all communicating with one another all the time. And so if somebody sees something wrong or something issue that's uncalled for or they never seen it before, they throw it on the board, and all other technicians that encounter it also.
Like an alert, look out for this.
Exactly.
If you come across this is how we got through it.
Alert sometimes when they push patches that actually causes problem with your environment, they will let know.
I like this because if I was to have a problem and go to somebody who was a standalone, their resources are limited to their own knowledge and their access to whatever they were using for tools on the internet for information. Whereas you have a network of people. It's like going to a car dealer with your car, and they come across a problem, they can look it up, but if they don't have it, they can get into the bigger network of everybody in the country and get the answer to the problem, right?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And also, with all of that, you're dealing with the local Team Logic, branch or company that you actually signed up with. So we're local as local can be, but we're nationwide. As far as the buying power, so being the headquarter actually does quite a few things for us, which is very important. So they actually vet out the vendors that we deal with.
Okay.
They get us the best price because they're not talking about one company or one office. They talking
on
about
all hardware.
all the hard. So we kind of get the best of both worlds. That it's us, you're individually owned, but we work as a huge company.
You can pass it on.
Exactly.
Let's go here. Who are your customers? Do you serve both the commercial business and the private consumer?
Private consumer because it's a home offices, so we definitely do, and obviously all the companies and small business and medium business.
If I was setting up my own home office, you would set me up with one computer and get me on a network?
If you need it
Yeah,
to
so
be.
you can do a job as small as that.
Yeah, if needed to be, because sometimes is you needed to go with your home office to different locations. You may need a VPN to your main office,
Yeah, okay.
or to your main company. You may need to secure your environment, even though if you're one.
Okay. And then on the business, the commercial side, you're able to set up a whole office team, a building,
Right.
network
Right.
protection.
Absolutely. So what I pretty much serve from building your computer to managing your whole entire environment to actually go ahead and establish your entire network, whether you want it to be wireless, whether you want it to be hardwired.
You know, Sam, we could talk all day because there's so much out there and it's
Yes.
evolving. Whatever we say today will be different next week, right?
That's correct.
Let's talk about some of the main concerns and some of the main things that you're helping a consumer with versus a commercial company, because we all know cyber attacks are all over the place. They're hitting large companies, large organizations. They're hitting government operations. We see power plants getting hit. Long Island, town of was the town of Suffolk County. The Suffolk County office had a massive breach near the end of the year last year. Took months to recover, millions of dollars. Tell me what the best recommendations are for the individual consumer as well.
So with the individual, remember now it's really the solution for each one, and each company it has its own scale of what solution you should get. So for a small, individual or small office, definitely make sure that you have the antivirus, and you basically with the antivirus you're making sure that you're getting all your updates. You should get with your email, you should get actually email threat protection, which is going to filter out all the spam or most of it.
So, like if I installed Microsoft as my email?
If you install Microsoft, then we actually
like
pop
Outlook?
it. With Outlook or Outlook or any other email.
They have
basically
their own
Outlook.
They have their own security built
Yeah.
in?
So exactly, what we do is we add on what the email threat protection, which is basically it kind of filter and quarantine your email. So if I send you an email and you don't, I look suspicious or I'm attaching things or so, it's gonna put my email in quarantine, and it will send you a report and tell you, hey, you want that email you trust, then you could release. You don't, you could leave it there.
Okay.
So that's on the small. I also back up, like what data does he have that's important, and how to back it up, because also remember there's compliance as well. So it's not just security, there's compliance.
Sure.
And depending on the business.
Anytime you're dealing with the medical industry,
Exactly.
you're dealing with legal,
Correct.
accounting,
Exactly.
right? These all have to have these
And-
kind of compliance and
right.
secures, right?
That is absolutely true. And how are you securing everybody is extremely important. And then depends on the needs of the individuals, then we build the solution, because sometimes we have the ability of basically taking a whole snapshot of your computer daily, and if anything happened, because it was that small, you could wipe it out and get you the prior version that's clean.
Okay.
So that's one. The second part on individual also is making sure that give them a little bit of education, what's going on, how you see the email, how would you know that.
Do you have
this
like a
is that?
newsletter that you do for your
We
clients?
do a newsletter, yes,
Yeah.
and it actually does give that, and on our website as well.
Yeah.
So we have that, and that really will take care of most of the small business, and just make sure that when you're out there and logging into a public network Wi-Fi, you secure yourself a bit.
You kind of alluded to this a little while ago, but when I drove up today, I was looking for you, and then I realized I was parked next to you
Right.
because you have the Team Logic van
Right.
with all the
All the
logos and stuff on it.
Yeah.
So you can go on site, do installation, repair, and be local to support. So there's a face,
Absolutely.
as well as supporting from a
Remote.
phone or remote, right?
Absolutely.
So which is kind of nice. I mean, I don't always get the solutions I need.
Right.
Remotely. Sometimes I just want to see a human and ask
Exactly.
questions as
Exactly.
things are being done. So that's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, it actually. So the way I provide support is you're always going to get somebody. So if it's 24/7 and there's always somebody who's going to answer your call, it's not a machine. It is an actual physical person that will help you and escalate if needed. And then in addition to that, really is what we put in place on, especially for small and medium, business.
Do you do as small a work as repairing someone's screen on a phone? Is that part of this, or is that a little smaller?
That at the moment we used to do that way at the beginning because I actually had my son was doing it, but now that he graduated college and he's doing a program, and he says like, I don't want to do anything.
Okay.
So we kind of don't do the screen really, but we could actually recommend places you can go.
But you'll repair if I brought you a Dell or
yes, absolutely.
There's something wrong with it, a hard drive is you repair the machine, replace the hard drive.
We will. We actually, and if you have data on your machine and you want to move it to another machine, we'll help you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the data, I personally, my company will not be able to extract the data or recover the data. I do work with other companies that will send them the hard drive, and they will not charge if they cannot recover your data. But if they recover the data, they will be charging accordingly. Okay. So we have the ability, we clone your hard drive, and away from that, if you're a small and medium business, so some of the solution we give you is the way you back up your data. How? Because that's an important. So security is not, cybersecurity is not one item. It is a multiple steps. Think of it as a castle in the old days. How many fences were there to protect until you get to the main house?
Right.
So it's a whole idea. So you're having your antivirus, having your malware. That's one. Patch, run and be on the latest and greatest patches that's released, because that's a lot of them is security. Have what we call an MDR or an EDR, and those are software that's running in the background. All it does is hunting if anybody in your environment doing anomaly behavior.
That's interesting.
So they actually will, one of them is have the capability to actually eliminate that machine from the whole network, and the other one alert.
While we're talking, in the back of my head, I'm processing my own situation, right? So I am an Apple user. I use all the devices, and there's a level of comfort, and I understand how, and it's kind of off my radar.
Okay.
But I do have some Windows devices, and I'm not really giving it the love I should be. I don't know. At the end, I don't know if I have it set up right.
Even Apple, I would say, make sure you have your antivirus and everything in there. It's not, it's not the same as Windows, but you just never know. But make sure that your antivirus and everything is going. And Apple actually force you to upgrade or
that's
updates.
interesting. Yeah, they do a lot of updates.
Yeah, so that's that. And right along with that also, so once you have this, your backup is extremely important. So we do a backup.
That's again, I'm backing up my Apple device. I have my hard drive, but I'm not doing anything with the other device.
That is true.
I'm real vulnerable.
No, exactly. And be aware, the best way is to have at least what we call 3 copies of your data. So remember, it's not just cyber. It's also if natural disaster happens or floods, is that.
Yeah, right.
Now you're also losing your data. So we recommend.
I like to believe I have everything pushed up in the cloud.
That is
on
true.
one machine I do.
Yeah. That is true. And one is a solution we provide. We recommend usually, especially on the sizes of company, is to actually have what we call appliances on site.
Yeah.
So it's sitting there. You could do local physically, and it's also all the time is pushing up to the cloud. Okay. So if anything happens, you're still in the cloud, and because we're doing incremental update or backup and so on, so if you get cybersecurity on one of the backup that we have, you could always restore from the one before or the one before. And even a backup software became extremely smart that it will know if there is something in there, and it will alert as well.
That's great. Well, we could talk all day, Sam.
Absolutely.
I'm conscious of your time and our guest time, and I want to say thank you. We're going to post Sam's information with Team Logic IT.
Team Logic IT.
We'll have that posted on the video, so you can reach out to Sam if you have any questions or things you want, concerns, or you need any help and support. Sam's a great person. He's a real strong communicator, a follow-up guy.
Absolutely. And we also do free consultation. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to call.
Yeah. Listen, some people are setting up offices.
Yeah.
Some people maybe aren't paying attention and maybe
Right.
need to have somebody come look at their and do a health checkup maybe.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes, we do that.
Thank you so much, Sam Hanafi. It was great to see you today.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
it, buddy. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Again,
All right.
if you want to see the full-length interview, you go to my YouTube channel, Michael Starrantino, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.